Am I the jerk for telling my husband he doesn't get to decide what I do with my body? I have been married to my husband for about 5 years. Overall, we have a good relationship, but lately we've been clashing over something that, to me, feels like common sense. My body equals my decision. The most recent fight started when I mentioned possibly getting on birth control again. He immediately jumped in saying he didn't like how it changes my hormones and that he'd prefer I just stay off it. I told him that I respect his opinion, but at the end of the day, I'm the one dealing with the side effects of not being on anything. He doesn't get the cramps, the stress, the oh no, is this a pregnancy scare anxiety? When I said, look, it's my body and I'm the one who has to manage it, not you, he got really defensive and accused me of not caring about his feelings. To be clear, I do care. He's my husband, I listen to him, but I also feel like it's unfair for him to think he gets a final vote on decisions that literally affect my health. For context, this isn't just about birth control. He's also made comments before when I cut my hair short or when I considered getting a small tattoo. Nothing extreme, but enough that I'm noticing a pattern. I told him flat out, you don't have the right to tell me what to do with my body. He said that was disrespectful. Now I'm wondering if I was too blunt or if I just set a boundary that needed to be set. So, am I the jerk for standing my ground? Am I the jerk for telling my friend she's in the same league as men she calls ugly? My friend, 19 female, downloaded dating apps like Tinder and Hinge for the first time about a week ago. For reference, she's the type that always says she wants a boyfriend, wants to do couple things, feels lonely single, etc. She's also, in my opinion at least, very normal and average looks-wise. Not ugly, not super hot, just alright. Since then, she's been complaining to me that almost all the men there are ugly, short, etc., and that she doesn't match with anybody hot. I asked to see which people she was calling ugly, and so she showed me her likes, and it mostly showed people perfectly in her league, as in moderately attractive guys. I told her that these guys were all in her league, and she should give some of them a chance, since she always complains about wanting to be in a relationship. She denied that she's the same league as them, and said that she's much more attractive than them. I pointed out that in her own words, she doesn't match with any of the guys she does find attractive, so she's not in their league. She said I was a jerk. Am I? Am I the jerk for having my mother yell at me for having intercourse with my girlfriend in my own apartment when we're both 26 years of age? So I, 26 male, live with my girlfriend, 26 female, in an apartment that I pay for. We've been together for 3 years, and our relationship is great. We're both working professionals, fully independent, and like any normal couple, we even have an active love life. Enter my mother, 54 female. She's always been a little overbearing, but since I moved out when I started dating my GF, I thought things had gotten better. Apparently, I was wrong. Last weekend, my mom came over to drop off some homemade food, which was nice. I'll give her that. I had told her she could stop by after 4 p.m. since my girlfriend and I were having a lazy morning. But of course, she decided to show up 2 hours early with her spare key, which she has for emergencies. Well, my girlfriend and I were in the bedroom, clearly busy, when we heard my mother banging on the bedroom door. She was shouting my name and saying things like, "I know what you're doing in there," and "have some respect." I scrambled to throw on some clothes, went out, and asked her what the hell she was doing here unannounced. She started yelling at me about how it was disgusting and inappropriate to be doing that while guests are over. I reminded her that this is my apartment. She wasn't supposed to be here yet. We're two consenting adults. She was having none of it. She called me disrespectful, said I had no manners, and even told my girlfriend that she should be ashamed, which, WTF. My girlfriend just walked out of the room, grabbed her keys, and left because she wasn't dealing with that nonsense. I ended up arguing with my mom for 10 more minutes before telling her to leave and return the spare key. She refused at first, but I stood my ground until she finally handed it over. She left in a huff and later texted me saying she was deeply disappointed in how I spoke to her. Now, my dad and sister are both telling me I was too harsh and that I shouldn't have put her in that situation. I argued that she put herself in that situation by showing up unannounced and barging into my home. Am I the jerk for giving my daughter $60 a week, but my son nothing? I, 45 female, have 2 kids, 17 female and 15 male. We moved earlier this year to be closer to my parents as my parents' health is declining. My daughter was excited about the move, but my son has struggled to adjust. Due to the move, my job shifted to hybrid, and I needed a work-from-home setup. My bedroom is too small, and the only options were the lounge or one of the kids' rooms during school hours. I proposed this to them. My son flat out refused. No way in hell. But my daughter offered her room and half joked about charging me rent for the space. I thought it was fair, as I get a $20 a day work-from-home allowance. I agreed to give it to her if she was okay with me setting up a small office in her room. I work from 8:30 to 5, and she usually starts homework right after I finish, so it's worked out well. Now the issue. My son is pissed that his sister is getting $60. I don't do regular allowances, just canteen money, about $10 a week, and other needs as they come up. I told him he had the same opportunity and was now shoot out of luck. He got angry and brought up the move, saying he never gets to see his friends. For the record, I drive them back to visit every 2 weeks for visits. I told him I understood his feelings, but said I wouldn't tolerate being spoken to like this. He then started an argument with his sister too, going in on her for being an opportunistic witch, and she called him a whiny little jerk. To cool off, I offered one of them the option to stay at their grandparents' for the night, not as a punishment, but to break the tension. My son opted to go, and while dropping him off, my mom told me I was favoring my daughter and should be paying them equally. My dad disagreed, saying my son had the chance and was shoot out of luck. Am I the jerk? ETA. The conversation took place over the course of the afternoon, and I didn't immediately agree to the deal with my daughter. I offered it to my son first, who reiterated, "Hell no," and "Get the flip out of my room." I also should mention the reason I have the smallest room is due to the lack of insulation in the ceiling and flooring, making it damp. And as we're heading into winter, I wasn't sending either kid in there. The room also fits a single bed and a set of drawers, with essentially no other space at all. We own the house in Auckland, New Zealand, and I don't have the spare cash to get it insulated at the moment, or even fit any of my equipment to work from home in there. Am I the jerk for refusing to go to my sister's wedding after finding out only our side of the family were having to pay to attend? Obligatory, this is a throwaway account, clarification. I'm very active in a D&D sub that I don't particularly want it to tied to this situation. So my younger sister, Katie 28 female, and her partner, Chris 29 male, are getting married in April in Dubai. She has always wanted an extravagant wedding and is going all out on this, so the wedding is happening over 4 days. There's 70 guests, but they want us, me, my husband, and parents, to stay in the same hotel with them, along with her bridesmaids, which I am maid of honor, and groomsmen. The hotel is pretty luxe, so with flights is costing us just over £900 each. Chris's family are also staying in the hotel, which includes his parents, 2 brothers, and his nephew. They are well off. I don't know exactly how much they earn combined, but I know Katie is on $88K and she is the lower earner. But about 6 months ago, Chris and Katie came to us and asked to borrow $17K more. They stressed it would be a loan paid over time and said the venue had increased the price. Dubai law was different, blah, blah, blah. They paid this money or they lost the lot. We believe them. And I offered to loan $7K and my parents the other $10K. So long story short, I have since found out through someone else that the $17K wasn't for the venue. It was for Chris's family to fly over there. They saw how much it was going to be, didn't want to pay, and refused to go. I asked Katie and she confirmed. So my first question was, If they were paying for his parents, why not pay for ours? I would never expect them to pay for me. Even if we couldn't afford it, I'd have wished them well and stayed at home. And her answer was, because they can afford it. She got very defensive and said this was the fairest way she could think of doing it. It's hard enough planning a wedding. But when I asked if you genuinely thought this was the fairest way to do it, why did you lie about what the $17K was for and say it was a venue issue? She couldn't answer. My parents are aware and are very disappointed they lied, but have said they're still attending. But I have backed out. To me, it feels like my parents are being taken advantage. And if they couldn't afford to pay for both our and Chris's parents and his brothers and nephew, then they shouldn't have just paid for the 4 parents or no one at all. And they especially shouldn't have lied about it. Katie and Chris keep calling and asking me to attend, saying I'm making them feel bad and ruining their day. But the whole thing just feels icky to me. I'm genuinely an open book, so be brutal. Am I being a jerk here? Should I just suck it up and go? Edit 1. Crumbs. Crumb. That's a lot of comments, haha. Thanks so much, everyone. Just wanted to answer a couple of comments that have come up a lot. The repayment. My husband's brother is a solicitor, and he kindly drew up a contract and repayment plan for both myself and my parents, so the money will be paid off within 12 months of the wedding. If they don't stick to this, I have access to a free solicitor. Haha, I hope it wouldn't come to that, but that's why I have the papers for worst case scenario. Asking for the $7K back. I might be a soft touch, but asking for this back feels like a step too far. Like I'm mad as hell, but not enough to actively try ruin their wedding a few weeks before, which it feels like, right now at least, is what that would be doing. But hey, give me a few more days to stew. Edit 2. Thanks again for all the feedback, everyone. Just another quick FYI. A few people have asked about Chris's family or seem to have the impression they're well off. I'm obviously not privy to their financial situation, but what the limited amount I do know from what Katie has said, Chris and his family grew up very poor. Before all this, I'd always thought Chris was a lovely guy, but I had caught him in the odd but harmless white lie. Things like where he went to school, the type of house he grew up in, etc. I get the impression he is embarrassed or resentful of his upbringing, giving their lack of money. And this is how he now values his own self-worth, by his much money he has. My guess is when his family said they couldn't go, he panicked and worried people who ask why they weren't there. And he would either have to say they couldn't afford it, or he couldn't afford to pay for them. And look, his past trauma/experience is not for me to judge. But if that were the case, it just makes me more mad that they both didn't plan ahead and talk to friends/family about what they could afford before booking Dubai. If it was such a deal breaker for his family to be there, they should have factored in the cost of paying for all parents to attend, instead of thrusting a $3K per person bill at them and expecting them to rock up. Final update. I had a lot of messages at the time of posting asking for an update on what I decided to do, so wanted to check in. So in short, I didn't end up going to the wedding. Katie and Chris basically harassed me constantly until few days before they were due to fly out. I received a belligerent voicemail from Katie saying if I didn't go, I wasn't her sister anymore. I was embarrassing myself and her and Chris. I was a horrible person. And most shockingly, if I didn't go, then her and Chris wouldn't be paying me or my parents back for the money we loaned. So trying to blackmail me. She would say it was a gift. I faked the contract, and I would have to take her to court. She was clearly drunk at the time. The voicemail was left on the night she was having her at-home hen do, which I also obviously didn't attend. But it was so beyond anything I thought she was capable of. I ended up sharing it with my parents, and they also reluctantly pulled out of attending. I heard through friends and family in attendance at the wedding, after her and Chris were telling everyone I had alienated her from her family and told lies to our parents. We gifted money and expected them to pay for us, etc., etc. And they made the decision to uninvite myself and my husband. Other, more insulting things were said that I don't particularly want to go into. Suffice to say, they were very hurtful. As I mentioned in my post, I had my brother-in-law, solicitor, draw up a contract for repayment for both myself and my parents. What was supposed to be the first repayment date passed without word from either of them, so brother-in-law picked up from there. His attempts to reach them were ignored, apart from one email from what I think was a fake law firm outlining the money was gifted. The contract was fraudulent and to take them to court, basically. In response to that, brother-in-law sent a copy of the voicemail Katie left, and a final demand outlining the payment plan was now null and void, and we wanted the money in full within 30 days, or we would indeed be going to court. Magically, the full amount appeared in our accounts 5 days later. Again, I've heard on the grapevine since the wedding, they have been telling anyone who would listen, we asked for our gift back out of the blue and disowned them, and how much of a difficult financial position they are in because of this. So that's that. I can't see myself having a relationship with her after this, which is devastating, but at the same time, I truly believe now, after everything, that isn't my fault. Thanks again to everyone who gave advice. I hope this update is enough for everyone who asked for one.